No one expected it. Not the audience. Not the crew. Not even Robin Williams himself. The microphone slipped slightly in his hand. The laughter that had filled the room just seconds ago dissolved into something else. Silence. Pure, unbroken silence. And in that silence, a melody began to play. Soft at first. Almost hesitant. Then unmistakable. A song he hadn't heard in years. A song that belonged to someone else. Someone who wasn't there anymore. Robin's face changed. The mask he wore so well, the one that could shift from manic energy to tender vulnerability in a heartbeat, cracked. His eyes, always so alive with mischief and warmth, suddenly glistened under the stage lights. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, holding that microphone like it was the only thing keeping him upright. And the audience, hundreds of people who had come to laugh, to escape, to be entertained, they felt it too. Something profound. Something raw. Something unbearably human. But this moment didn't begin on that stage. It began years earlier, in a place far quieter, far more ordinary. It began in a living room where a father and his son shared something that words could never quite capture. If you want to understand what happened that night, if you want to know why one of the greatest performers in the world broke down in front of strangers, subscribe now. Because the story behind that moment will stay with you long after this video ends. The living room was small. Not in a cramped way, but in a cozy, lived-in way. Sunlight filtered through half-drawn curtains, casting soft patterns on the worn carpet. A record player sat on a wooden shelf, surrounded by vinyl albums stacked in no particular order. Jazz, blues, classic rock, comedy records with faded covers. It was a collection built over decades, each album a small piece of someone's life. Robin Williams sat on the floor, cross-legged, flipping through records with the kind of focus most people reserved for important tasks. But to him, this was important. Music wasn't background noise. It was memory. It was feeling. It was the language he spoke when words fell short. His son, Zachary, 8 years old at the time, sat beside him. The boy had his father's eyes. Curious. Bright. Always watching, always absorbing. He didn't talk much, not in the way other kids did. He listened instead. And when he did speak, it was usually to ask questions his father couldn't always answer. "Why do you like sad songs, Dad?" Zachary asked, holding up an album with a melancholic blue cover. Robin paused. He looked at his son, then at the album, then back at his son. "Because," he said slowly, "sad songs tell the truth. Happy songs make you feel good for a little while. But sad songs? They stay with you. They remind you that it's okay to feel things deeply." Zachary thought about this for a moment. Then he picked up another record. This one had a simple design. A single name. A single image. He handed it to his father. "What about this one?" Robin smiled. Not his famous smile, the one audiences knew. A quieter one. More real. "That one," he said, "is special. Let's play it." He carefully placed the vinyl on the turntable. The needle dropped. There was a soft crackle, then the music began. A gentle guitar. A voice that sounded like it was singing directly to you, no one else. A song about time, about love, about the things we hold on to and the things we let go. Zachary closed his eyes and listened. Robin watched him. In that moment, nothing else existed. No career. No pressure. No expectations. Just a father and his son, sharing something wordless and perfect. "This is my favorite," Zachary said quietly, eyes still closed. Robin didn't respond right away. He just nodded. And in his chest, something tightened. Not sadness, exactly. Gratitude, maybe? Or fear. The fear that moments like this don't last. That life moves too fast. That one day, he'd look back and realize he hadn't been present enough. "Mine too," Robin finally said. "Mine too, buddy." But Robin didn't know then what that song would come to mean. He didn't know that years later, on a stage thousands of miles away, that same melody would bring him to his knees. Years passed. Zachary grew. Robin's career exploded in ways even he hadn't anticipated. Films. Interviews. Tours. Awards. The world loved him. And he loved them back, in his own way. But love, the kind that requires presence, patience, sacrifice, that became harder. Not because he didn't care, but because the world demanded so much of him. And he gave it. Sometimes too much. Zachary started pulling away. Not dramatically. Not with anger or rebellion. Just quietly. The way children do when they realize their parents are human, flawed, distracted. Robin noticed. Of course he noticed. But he didn't know how to fix it. He tried. He really did. He'd call between takes. Send postcards from distant cities. Make promises he couldn't always keep. "I'll be home soon," he'd say. "It's okay, Dad," Zachary would reply. And Robin hated that response. Because it meant his son had stopped expecting him to be there. One night, after a particularly exhausting press tour, Robin came home. The house was dark. Everyone was asleep. He walked through the rooms like a ghost, touching familiar objects. The couch. The kitchen counter. The record player, still sitting on that same wooden shelf. He picked up the album. The one with the simple cover. The one Zachary had called his favorite all those years ago. He held it for a long time, staring at it, trying to remember the last time they'd listened to it together. He couldn't. He put it back without playing it. The phone call came on a Tuesday. Robin was in the middle of rehearsals for a news show. High energy. Fast-paced. The kind of performance that required every ounce of focus he had. His assistant knocked on the dressing room door. "You have a call." "It's important." Robin's stomach dropped. Important calls were never good. He picked up the phone. It was his ex-wife. Zachary's mother. Her voice was calm, but he could hear the strain beneath it. "Zachary's in the hospital. Nothing life-threatening, but he's asking for you." Robin didn't ask questions. He just left. The show could wait. Everything could wait. When he arrived at the hospital, Zachary was sitting up in bed, looking smaller than he should have at 17. Pale. Tired. But alive. Robin hugged him, maybe harder than he should have, and Zachary let him. "What happened?" Robin asked. "Collapsed during practice," Zachary said quietly. "They're running tests. It's probably nothing." But it wasn't nothing. Over the next few weeks, the doctors ran more tests. They found something. Not immediately dangerous, but something that required treatment. Something that reminded both of them how fragile everything was. Robin stayed. He cleared his schedule. He sat in hospital rooms. He made terrible jokes that made the nurses laugh and Zachary roll his eyes. And slowly, the distance between them started to close. One evening, as they sat together in silence, Zachary said, "Do you remember that song? The one we used to listen to?" Robin looked at him. "Yeah. I remember. I still listen to it sometimes," Zachary admitted. "It reminds me of when things were simpler." Robin's throat tightened. "Me too." Subscribe now and leave a comment. Because what happens next will show you the most powerful moment of Robin's life, and it's something you won't want to miss. Months later, Robin returned to the stage. It was a small venue. Intimate. The kind of place where you could see every face in the audience. He'd been nervous about coming back. Nervous that he'd lost his rhythm. But the moment he stepped into the light, it all came back. The energy. The connection. The joy of making people laugh. He was halfway through his set, riding a wave of improvisation, when something unexpected happened. The sound system glitched. Just for a second. A brief crackle. And then, softly, barely audible at first, a song began to play. Not part of the show. Not planned. Just there. Robin froze. It was the song. The one from the living room. The one Zachary had called his favorite. The audience didn't understand why he'd stopped. They waited, assuming it was part of the act. But Robin wasn't acting. He was somewhere else entirely. He was on the floor of that living room, watching his son close his eyes and listen. He was in that hospital room, hearing Zachary say, "It reminds me of when things were simpler." His hand trembled. The microphone dipped slightly. And then, without meaning to, without being able to stop it, tears filled his eyes. Someone in the audience gasped softly. Others leaned forward, confused but captivated. Robin looked out at them, and for the first time in his career, he didn't try to turn the moment into a joke. He didn't deflect. He just stood there, letting them see him. Really see him. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, his voice cracking. "This song, it's my son's favorite." The music kept playing. And Robin kept standing there, crying in front of hundreds of strangers, completely vulnerable, completely human. But what no one in that audience knew was that Zachary was there. Sitting in the back row. Watching his father fall apart. And for the first time in years, he understood something he'd forgotten. His father wasn't a performer. He was just a man. A man who missed his son. The stage manager backstage frantically tried to figure out what had gone wrong with the sound system. But it didn't matter. The song played. And Robin led it. He walked slowly to the edge of the stage and sat down, legs dangling over the side. The audience was so quiet you could hear breathing. Individual breaths. Shared silence. "You know," Robin said, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand, "I spent so many years trying to be everywhere for everyone. And I forgot to be somewhere for someone." He paused. The song played on. "My son taught me something when he was 8 years old. He taught me that the best moments aren't the ones you plan. They're the ones where you just stop. And listen. And be present." Someone in the front row started crying. Then another. The emotion in the room was tangible, thick, almost overwhelming. "I thought I was too busy to stop," Robin continued. "I thought the world needed me to keep going, keep performing, keep being on. But the only person who really needed me was the one I kept leaving behind." He looked up, scanning the audience. And then he saw him. Zachary. Standing at the back, tears streaming down his face. Their eyes met. Robin stood. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He just stepped off the stage, walked through the audience, and hugged his son. Right there. In front of everyone. The audience erupted. Not in applause, but in something deeper. A collective release. People were sobbing. Strangers were hugging each other. Because in that moment, Robin Williams had reminded them of something they'd forgotten. That connection matters more than performance. That presence matters more than success. That love, real love, requires you to stop. To listen. To be there. The song ended. The room fell silent again. Robin and Zachary stood there, holding each other, and for the first time in years, everything felt right. Share this video and subscribe so his story will never be forgotten. Because what you just witnessed wasn't just a moment on stage. It was a lesson in what it means to be human. Robin never finished that show. He didn't need to. He'd already given the audience something far more valuable than laughter. He'd given them truth. Backstage, after everyone had left, Robin and Zachary sat together in the empty dressing room. The lights were dim. The building was quiet. "How did you know to come?" Robin asked. Zachary smiled. "Mom told me you were performing. I wanted to surprise you." "You did," Robin said, laughing softly through the remnants of tears. "You really did." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Zachary said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For stopping." Robin looked at his son. Really looked at him. And he realized something profound. He'd spent his entire career trying to give people moments they'd never forget. But the only moment that truly mattered was this one. Right here. Right now. "I should have stopped a long time ago," Robin said quietly. "You're stopping now," Zachary replied. That's what matters. Years later, when people asked Robin about that night, he'd always say the same thing. I thought I was on that stage to perform. But I wasn't. I was there to remember. To remember what really matters. And when they asked him what that was, he'd smile. Not his famous smile. The other one. The real one. Being present, he'd say. That's all. Just being present. The song never made it into any of his recorded shows. But everyone who was there that night remembered it. They remembered the way he cried. The way he stopped trying to be Robin Williams, the performer, and just became Robin Williams, the father. And they remembered that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to make people laugh. It's to show them it's okay to feel. To cry. To stop. To remember. Because in the end, we're all just trying to hold on to the moments that matter. The quiet ones. The simple ones. The ones where someone we love closes their eyes and listens to a song, and we're there beside them, grateful for every second. Robin Williams never forgot that night. And neither did his son. Because some moments don't need a stage. They just need someone willing to stop and listen.